Two Worlds, One Family by Dragon Translator. Chapter 12. You are not my slave! Where have you been? Snotlout demanded as Toothless landed. Hookfang and I have been ready to show everyone how many logs we can carry, but Mr. Officer won't let us start without you. We're not carrying logs by ourselves, Hiccup said, dismounting. We're tying the net to the dragon's saddles. Snotlout grunted. What's the point of that? Hookfang and I easily can carry 20 logs in the time it takes you to carry one load of logs. Do not make boasts about my abilities when you do not know them, hatchling. And do not believe I will disobey my alpha. I'm your rider! Yes, and the hatchling my alpha wishes me to train. I am not a hatchling! Hiccup groaned. He, Toothless, and the Terror headed to where Mr. Offerson and his woodcutting team were standing around a stump used to sit their map of the island upon. The Terror hopped onto the stump, careful not to mess with the map or the charcoal sticks. Brynja stared at the Terror for a moment, then looked to Hiccup. Hiccup smiled. Neither Brynja nor his team reached for any weapons when the Terror jumped up, even if all tensed at the unexpected appearance. A gust of wind blew through the trees. The map began to flap, as if it would fly away. The Terror placed a paw upon it, then shifted his wings so the charcoal sticks did not roll off. Brynja grunted, reaching over and scratching the Terror's head. The Terror chirped and purred. We have a load ready for you all to haul, Brynja said. He frowned. You really tying the net to the saddles? Yeah, Hiccup said. You don't think it's a good idea? I'm just wondering how easy it'll be to unload. Hiccup frowned. He heard several squawks, chirps and coos, but did not turn. Brynja raised a good point. Tying the net would allow the logs to be moved, but it would make unloading them difficult. Brother, Toothless said, we can hold the ropes instead of you tying them to our saddles. Then we can just sit the net down when we get there. That won't hurt you? Hiccup asked. No. We may need a moment at times to keep our paws from feeling stiff, but we will not be harmed as long as everyone flies together. Hiccup frowned. He still worried, but Toothless sounded sure. You can rest while they unload, Brynja said. Okay, we'll carry the ropes. He turned, finding Astrid conversing with Gyda near the edge of the clearing. Hiccup smiled. He had not been lying when he told Astrid he saw Gyda as a sister. He wanted no discord between any of his friends, but especially between Astrid and Gyda. The two walked over and Gyda smiled down at the Terror. Do you wish your memories back? She asked. Yes, please. Alpha? Why are you asking me? I've sworn to obey you, Hiccup. You have full control over the magic I wield. You are not my slave! Gyda glanced at Astrid, and both grinned and shook their heads. Gyda turned back to Hiccup. I know, my friend, she said, but the fact remains. You give an order regarding my magic, and I will follow. But you don't... Gyda smiled. I will explain what this all means later. I promise. Hiccup sighed. He did not like it, but he knew he had little time to deal with it. The logs needed to get back to the village. He would talk to Gyda later, though. He wanted no one to believe they were in servitude to him. Alpha? Gyda asked again, softly. Hiccup stared at her, and then nodded his head. Gyda tipped her head and then gestured for the Terror to hop off the stump. It will hurt, and there is nothing I can do about that, she said as the Terror stared at her with his head tilted. I don't think Mr. Offerson wants his map shredded. The Terror chirped and jumped down. Gyda knelt and closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened when the Terror screeched and flared his wings. Hiccup dropped beside the Terror and grabbed him, much to Astrid's annoyance, if her growled yelling of his name was any indication. Hiccup did not care. He could not comfort anyone who went through this. He would comfort the Terror. Brother, he said, don't fight the memories. The pain will pass. As he spoke, he gently scratched the Terror. Soon, the screeching subsided, and the Terror calmed. He then snuggled into Hiccup's hold. Thank you, Brother Alpha. Thank you, Elder Gyda. I remember it all now. Hiccup smiled. The Terror stirred, and Hiccup let him go. The Terror moved back and hopped back onto the stump. He resumed his self-appointed task of watching out for the map and the charcoal sticks. Hiccup and Gyda stood. More squirks, chirps, coos and croons announced the arrival of other dragons. The woodcutters looked around as the dragons landed and whistled.
With this many helping, we can clear the forest,
one Viking said. Bad idea, Gyda said. Very bad idea.
What? Why?
Gyda pointed to the stump. See those roots? They dig deep into the dirt and hold it in place. She then pointed to the tallest mountain on the island. Do you ever have instances where the snow slides down?
Yes, Brynja asked.
It would do much the same if you take all the trees. There would be nothing to hold the dirt, and the very first bad storm, this area slides. Gyda then walked over to a small sapling, barely her height. Hiccup, could you please come here and blow on this leaf? She asked, running a curled finger on the underside of a leaf, halfway up the sapling's trunk. Hiccup frowned, but did as she asked. He blinked, disappointed when nothing magical happened. What was that about? He asked. The air we breathe out is the air the trees breathe in. The air the trees breathe out is the air we breathe in. Remove all the trees and we stop breathing. Not to mention the animals that live in the forest. The animals you will hunt for food and hide. Take their homes, and where would they live then? Did you learn all this in the future? Hiccup asked. Yes, it is part of the reason my families lived in a cave. We did not wish to harm the forest on the land. Hiccup frowned, placing a finger on his chin. Dad needs to hear this, even if he doesn't want the future known. Hiccup looked around. How can we ensure there are always trees? Gyda grinned. Here, she said, holding out a closed fist. Hiccup turned and held up his hand. Gyda dropped several seeds into his palm. You have farmers, she said softly. Hiccup frowned and then blinked. They can grow more trees.
That's dumb, Snotlout said. Where'd the rest of the food grow?
Gyda sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. Trees can be moved after they reach a certain age. One just needs to take caution in how they are dug up, transplanted, and replanted.
This was a common practice?
Brynja asked. Yes, we even had a festival of sorts for it. We called it Earth Day. Many would grow trees so that others could replant them. Gyda gestured to the area they stood in. Take a few from here, move to another location, take a few from there, but keep the seeds and grow and replant. All of these measures will ensure the forest remains. Hiccup looked over at Brynja. What do you think, sir?
I'm taking her advice, he said. Take that load and then meet us.
He paused, looking around, then pointed to a spot to the east.
That rock outcropping where you lot return.
Hiccup turned to regard the place Brynja had pointed. The rocks looked to be a distance of 10 adult nightmares laying end to end, tails included. Hiccup nodded. All right, he called out. Let's load up. He then looked to the Terror. Do you want to come or stay? I'll stay, if it's all right, Brother Alpha. I can help keep the wind from taking their things.
Mr. Officer? Hiccup asked. He's more than welcomed. Blasted wind's been making me chase that map all over.
Hiccup chuckled before mounting Toothless. The dragons with riders made their way to the laid-out net with several logs already in it. Fishlegs and Meatlug moved to the front of the nest. Fishlegs and Meatlug moved to the front of the net. Gyda called it from the point person and promised to explain why they had in a free moment to talk. Hiccup grunted. He hoped Astrid did not mind walking or flying with him in between meetings and talks with various people. Until winter truly set in, that might be the only time they would get to spend together. Hiccup felt Toothless shake and realized every other dragon and rider were in their assigned spots and were looking at him. Hiccup grunted. All right, he said, hoping his cheeks were not red at being caught thinking and not actually doing his job. Dragons lift up enough that the Vikings can hand you the ropes. We're going to carry them instead of tying them. Oh, good, Meatlug said. I was worried how we would get them on the ground if they were tied. The dragons rose slightly. Several of Brynja's team held up the ends of the ropes. The dragons all gripped them, careful not to sever the threads with their claws or accidentally slash the Vikings. Up! Hiccup ordered. The dragons rose higher. Hiccup noted Hookfang kept a steady pace. Even if it was clear Snotlout wanted him to go faster. Great, another thing to deal with and another person to talk to. He would have to remember to ask his father how to handle someone who insisted on doing everything contrary to giving an order. That, he thought, described much of himself before the war, and had Hiccup had feelings of guilt over things he had done and put his father through. He would have to talk with his dad about that as well. Toothless's soft grunt pulled Hiccup from his thoughts. Is this too heavy? I am fine, Toothless said. So am I, Stormfly, Shadowfire, and Hookfang said at the same time. Meatbug? Hiccup asked. I am good. I'm just wondering what will be done with the trees not in the net.
That is where we come in, Lawkeeper said. We will each carry a tree.
Ah, right, Hiccup said. Riders, let's move. Meatlug, we're going at your pace. Why? Snotlout demanded. She is contending with the wind and the net, and I am needed back here to keep an eye on things, so I can't be in the front.
Hooky and I should be in the front. We'd have these logs hauled back by now. Shadowfire and myself are the biggest dragons here, hatchling. We are the best suited to handle the bulk of the weight in the middle. We discussed this before we left. Did you not listen?
Yes.
Wait, what was the question again?
Hiccup sighed. Let's just go. Move out. Fish legs, Meatlug? Meatlug flew forward and everyone else followed at her pace. Hiccup grit his teeth, noting how many times Snotlout tried to urge Hookfang to fly faster. The nightmare refused each time, staying even with Shadowfire. Hiccup now knew why his father needed to have ice blocks at the end of the day at times. He was certain he would need several for his own head by the end of the day, which could not come soon enough. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I like that. They're sort of like working together. One thing you'll notice in this, and that's pointed out later in the story, is that Hookfang sort of becomes a father figure to Snotlout, sort of disciplining him and teaching him, and not giving in to his whims. If Hookfang did give in to his whims, he'd be enabling him, but he's just like, no, this is why we're doing it, and no, I'm not letting you get away with recklessness. And I sort of like that idea. We don't get much of how Spitelout raised Snotlout, but you can sort of see where the arrogance came from. And while Spitelout isn't a bad person, he does reflect a lot of the more negative traits Snotlout has. And I like that Hookfang's sort of stepping up to fill in that void and teach him how to be a bit more disciplined. Maybe that's just me, but you guys know how I am with the family dynamic. And this story is chock-a-block with it. And also, the tiny Fang is here. In later chapters, he will become known as Sharpshot, which I like for a dragon name. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.